Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi, and well, there's been some news from Amsterdam in case you weren't paying attention here over the weekend. The brand new set Foundations has been announced with major ramifications for the standard environment, both on and off Arena. We are going to go through it today. It is expected out for Arena November 12th. It seems like the fine folks at Wizards like to surprise us with something about rotation time every year, some big change. And well, this is potentially the biggest change we've ever seen. That's right, might even eclipse the Golden Packs changes, particularly for newer players. But before we get into all that, just a quick reminder that the Stronghold is producing content for you across a number of platforms. And Patreon has recently introduced an option where you can follow our content there without the need for any financial commitment. So even if you aren't ready to support the Stronghold is better positioned to support you. So you never miss out on a thing. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. I really wanted to ground this conversation with the actual footage from the Amsterdam panel where it was announced. But just be aware, I have taken liberties in editing some of this, less for effect and more for brevity. Overall, it's the exact same thing. We've just cut it down a little bit. And of course, I have interjected my own thoughts because, of course, you could get the raw video footage from anywhere.
Magic the Gathering Foundations. Something brand new, and to help talk about what this is, I would like to welcome to the stage Max McCall and Brian Hawley. All right, so exciting to have you all here. So, Magic the Gathering Foundation is really cool. First of all, though, tell us about what you do at Wizards of the Coast so we understand. Brian, you can go first.
Hey, Gavin. I'm the game design director for Magic, but for this set, I got to take off that hat and put on the hat of lead set designer for Magic the Gathering Foundations.
Very cool. And how about you, Max?
I'm one of the executive producers for Magic the Gathering, so responsible for Foundations being awesome and successful.
Very cool. So Magic the Gathering Foundations is a brand new standard legal set. It's really exciting. Max, what is it? Fill us in on what we're doing here.
Yeah, so Foundations is a set that just is building the foundations for the next era of Magic. So it's a full Magic set, playboosters, collectors, the whole 9 yards, built as what the set Magic the Gathering would be. So it's a set that's useful for anyone, no matter where you are on your journey throughout Magic.
And it's going to be totally standard legal, right?
Totally standard legal. In fact, because of this, the cornerstone of this next era of Magic, it's going to be legal through at least 2029. So it's going to be standard legal for many years.
The set is intended to be standard legal. We're describing it as semi-indefinitely. We know that times change. We know that at some point in the future, the kind of needs of the new player and the needs of the audience may shift. But through at least 2029, the set will be standard legal, and it could be for much longer than that.
And therein lies the first really interesting aspects of this forthcoming Foundation set, and that is how long it is already guaranteed to last and may last even longer. I took the liberty of just throwing out the relative timeline here that we have over the next few years, and assuming a 3-year rotation, we have got to get all the way to rotation in calendar year 2027 before anything new that comes out is going to last longer than what is available in the Foundation set. That's pretty tremendous. For years now, I have recommended, and particularly to new players, to focus your Arena resources on those new sets, the things that just came out, because those are the cards you're going to get the most relative mileage at. And now for the next couple years, that's really potentially not true. This really may force us to rethink, particularly in the Arena economy, how to use those resources to get the most mileage and use out of cards. And Foundation really may be where it's at.
Okay, so what are some of the cards we can expect here? I mean, maybe we should show them some preview cards or something to get an idea of what's in Magic the Gathering Foundations. I think I want to see some preview cards, Max.
I think a picture might be worth 1,000 words or so.
Let's show up what preview card right here that I think you'll recognize. Pretty exciting one here on the screen.
Right.
Tell us about this.
Yeah, so Land of Werewolves is back, right? And so this goes back to what I was saying about the set being legal in Standard for longer, right? So Foundations is full of cards that you'll be using for the next several years across Tournament Magic. Land of Werewolves is back to be one of the elemental cards for such formats.
So if this is going to be a normal size set using today's set parameters, that means we're going to have somewhere around 80 or so commons. And I think the introduction of Land of War Elves here is a very clear indication that these common slots in particular are going to be used for low power but staple cards. Things like Shock, Opt, and Duress. Very likely candidates, and hopefully that means that those cards see less cut and paste reprints in the premier Standard release sets because they're already in Standard. Instead of just reprinting Shock, we will see a Shock variant that maybe makes more sense for that particular set. As a for instance here, I really think Healer's Hawk might push the power level of what they're looking for in this set and might not be included for that reason. Healer's Hawk can go way up in value depending upon what else is around it. And I do hope that we see some colorless aspects because in these introductory sets, artifacts and colorless cards that can be very versatile are often overlooked. And as a for instance, I did Bone Splitter because that's one of those cards that can make Healer's Hawk go way up in value. Healer's Hawk on turn 1 followed up by playing and equipping a Bone Splitter is the kind of start that just wins games. And if your opponent isn't prepared to deal with that, well, they've lost, whether they know it yet or not. I don't think or expect that we will see any gold cards in this set at the common level. Everything is probably going to be monochromatic, with gold cards being introduced more at the uncommon levels.
They have Judgment back in Standard 4-mana board sweepers on the menu, Max.
Yeah. For when Land of Werewolves gets a little out of hand, we have all of the creatures can go straight to the graveyard.
I remember you telling me that kind of this was a set that felt like if you were making a set just called Magic the Gathering, that's what it was. These were kind of some of the cards you would put into this set.
Right, yeah. Like, what are the cards that have the kind of clean, simple elegance that will echo throughout the rest of Magic's history?
Yeah, so there's these and many other cool reprints.
Now, I believe it's going to be a pretty cut and dry case that a lot of the rare slots are going to be those utility cards like the shown Day of Judgment, iconic creatures like Sheevan Dragon that again maybe don't push the power level of Standard but are particularly fun for newer players. And I think it's also very likely that we are going to see a 10-card dual land rare cycle, something around the power level of those Pain lands like Battlefield Forge. I also think the pathways are about the right power level, but it would be very surprising to me if they put something like modal double-face cards in a set that's targeted towards newer players. Also, something like the temples that allow you to scry as it comes into play could also be the proper power level. And we might even see a mix across some of these equal power level cards in order to match some of the mechanical aspects to what the colors are trying to do. Like maybe most of the blue dual lands allow you to scry, something along that lines. I also don't think most of these are necessarily going to be reprints. They have said that the set is about 50-50 reprints versus new cards. And let's be honest, the majority of those new cards are going to be reserved for higher rarity slots because that is what sells packs to older players.
Prince. Now, Max, you were the lead designer for this set. Talk to me a little bit about the design philosophy you used to guide you. Brian, excuse me. You were the lead designer for this set. Tell us about the design philosophy you used to guide us for this set.
Yeah, so as Max referenced, this is a new evolution of how we are approaching learn-to-play products for Magic. The focus here is similar, but different in some really key ways from our previous explorations in that. And it is really, really focused on showing new players why Magic is awesome, helping them find what is cool about Magic, and while doing all of that, keeping it fun for the veterans, the players that are teaching them and bringing them into the game. The set is something we've wanted to make for 5 years, 10 years. Something in the space of, we called it an evergreen core set way back in the day. It's kind of evolved and changed and grown since then into what it is now. It has the most robust learn-to-play experience we've ever made, which, as Max mentioned, kind of contains a lot of those cards that are really useful in your first 10 games of Magic, but rapidly drop off as you kind of grow out into the broader Magic ecosystem. We didn't set out with any particular ratio of how many reprints, how many new cards should be in this. We started from, if there is an existing Magic card that we think is just perfect for the job, we would use that.
The fellows went on to discuss 3 additional previews, Omniscience, a reprint, and 2 new cards, 9 Lives Familiar at Rare, as well as Anthem of Champions at Rare. They also discussed various versions of the artwork, frame styles, things like that, which frankly are not of huge interest to me, and I'm not going to spend time delving into it. I would rather get back into the nuts and bolts. But certainly the cards are here for you on the screen, and other content creators are going to be covering this in excruciating detail if that's your bag.
Can you give us any hints at maybe things we might be seeing in Foundations?
Yeah, I mean, so plenty of folks' favorite characters will return. I might be able to give you a small clue about some of those characters, like a tiny hint as to who might be there. There's some characters who are extremely hot, temperature, flames, etc. Folks
could be anybody, really.
Really, there's so many people that qualify under that. A lot of folks' favorite characters are coming back. These are people for whom they've been a touchstone of Magic for a long time. They'll be the same thing going forward.
So will we see Planeswalkers?
Yes, there's 5 new Planeswalkers. There's characters you've seen before, characters who you'll be seeing in a new light, and characters who are like, yes, you're back and better than ever.
All right, 5 Planeswalkers, pretty obviously going to be one of each of the 5 primary colors. They all but confirmed that Chandra is going to be the red Planeswalker. Jace and Lily seem like very strong candidates for their respective colors. I believe Nissa's status is she's desparked, leaving Vivian as the default green choice here. Although, of course, they could always make a new Planeswalker for this set. And, well, white, I don't know. What is Basri and Ajani's status at this point? I'm not even sure. I couldn't find a definitive answer online. So maybe white, we get a brand new Planeswalker. We'll just have to see.
And I will mention that similar to how the creative is kind of spread across the planes of Magic, the creative is also spread across timelines of Magic. It is not specific to one point in time. This is trying to be very timeless. And like the rest of the set, the 5 Planeswalkers are a mix of new and returning cards, but all of the characters are well known and beloved.
Right. Well, very exciting. Magic: The Gathering Foundations. Now, when will this be hitting?
So release is November 15th. The full booster suite, there's a Jumpstart experience with it. There's some of those new player products. Everything will be out November 15th.
Very exciting. And standard legal, once
Standard
again,
legal,
right?
Yep, absolutely.
Brian.
The Amsterdam panel mentioned several products very specifically, not the least of which were play boosters, collector packs, and a new jump-in product. All of which are fairly cut and dry and will more than likely meet our expectations. However, they did mention 2 new player-specific products, but did not give a lot of details on those. Being a beginner bundle as well as a starter pack. However, I took the liberty of reaching out to some trusted members of my LGS community in order to get the inside track on these products. You see, a while back, Chris Cook made one of his typically cryptic statements about revamping the new player experience for Magic's digital environments. Shortly thereafter, the starter deck duels and then Spark Rank were introduced. Most folks figured that was it and kind of declared it an underwhelming failure. But I didn't really think they were done, and I think these new starter real-world products tell us a lot about what the new onboarding experience for Arena is likely to look like for new players. The first product for us to consider is the Beginner Box, which is being touted as an on-ramp to Magic the Gathering and promises dozens of games straight out of the box, all for the bargain price of just $30 here in the US. It will consist of 10 packs containing each 20 mono-colored cards, and is going to work very similar to Jump In, where you just take 2 of the packs, shuffle them together. With the 10 different packs, that is 100 different combinations or 90 different combinations. I don't know, I should have done the math. But anyway, lots and lots of options there for a pretty bargain price, considering that works out to roughly $3 a pack, give or take your local sales tax, where jump-in packs are traditionally about 50% more than that. So if you're looking for that on-ramp, this is a great way to potentially do it. More importantly to us on Arena, I think this has some clear indications about changes to that onboarding system, specifically about the mono-color decks that we currently receive on Arena. I think it is very likely that eventually these decks are going to go away and be replaced by either a jump-in style event based on the Beginner Box, or at the very least decks built from those cards as opposed to the current card lineup. That, of course, would imply that these cards will no longer be evergreen in Alchemy moving forward at some point. It also would suggest that long-standing decks on Arena, like the Blue-White Flyers deck, the Goblin Bombardment, Mono-White Life Gain, and Big Dumb Green, all will either go away or at least be updated with a new card pool. The second product is the Starter Collection, which looks like it's going to retail for about $60 US and is going to consist of an additional 350 cards with the intention of expanding on your deck's gameplay styles, colors, and mechanics. And what I think this spells for the Arena new player experience onboarding is the death of the annual parade of often bad starter decks that come out with each new renewal. Instead, I think new players are going to receive a digital copy of this starter collection along with probably 10 two-color combination deck suggestions based on the contents of those that then players can virtually immediately start tweaking and doing their own. This would go a long way to explain why with only a month until rotation, there has been no mention from the Arena team about Renewal this year, where usually it's like 6 to 8 weeks beforehand where they start talking about this. I do think we are going to see a Renewal announcement on July 8th, maybe even as late as the 15th, but I really can't see it being pushed back any further than that. Potentially the best thing about this change is these decks will not need to be updated as long as the foundation set remains standard legal. That frees up resources for the arena team to do potentially more long-term relevant work to the arena client. Like, I don't know, introducing new formats like Commander, Pauper, Modern, all of these things that people want to see. And in fact, I'd love to hear from you. Drop down in the comments and let me know what you would like to see the arena team do with these newly freed up potential resources. And if all of this seems vaguely familiar, it's probably because you've been paying attention to me talking about Magic the Gathering's other digital client, the online system, which very recently just went to a similar onboarding new player experience where you get a series of starter decks as well as a pretty vast collection of cards to get you going. And just so you know, the cards that are listed on this particular graphic are available on MTGO and are not expected to be necessarily added to Arena, so you can stop freaking out. The broad strokes of all of this is that Standard, not Alchemy, is very likely to once again become the default new player starting point. And, well, frankly, a lot of folks would argue that that's always the way it should have been. There is also a non-zero chance that someone high up in Wizards or Hasbro has taken a look at the numbers and made a determination that if Lord of the Rings was not enough, being the most popular best-selling set in Magic history, if that was not enough to prop up Alchemy, that perhaps they're just done with it and it's going to be phased out. For the record, though, I find that particular possibility, while I said non-zero, to be highly unlikely. Most of the costs associated with Alchemy are already sunk in, and developing a 30-card set for each of the premier releases 4 times a year is probably a very minimal amount of labor compared to the sunk costs that they have already invented. So while it is possible and arguable, I don't really think Alchemy is going anywhere, but I do think there's very solid indications that it is coming back out of the spotlight to give Standard the room that it needs to be successful on and off the digital clients. Overall, I would say it's clear that this set is very likely to affect the way we do things here around the Stronghold, from the advice that we give to new players, the way we approach the arena economy, and even the way we build budget decks. And as those details begin to come into focus, you can count on the Stronghold to help you have a plan for your digital Magic experience. And before we go, I want to take just a moment to thank my totally awesome patrons for supporting me and allowing me to apply my passion into a community. And of course, before we go, I've got some suggestions for your next step.